Miami's being overlooked this season, but could some surprising hot shooting be what they need to make the playoffs? I'll tell you which shooters will be carrying the team's offense when we make our bold predictions on today's episode of Locked On Heat.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to Locked On Heat, your daily podcast on the Miami Heat. Whether you're tuning in on YouTube or on your favorite podcast app, thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. I'm Wes Goldberg, host of Locked On NBA Daily and Real GM Radio, here with David Ramil. Both of us are credentialed Heat media members who cover this team every day. David, I am pumped for today's episode because we are continuing our big, bold season predictions. We split these episodes up into two parts because we just had so many predictions that we couldn't possibly fit it all into one episode. So in the first episode, part one, I gave you my increasingly bold predictions that ended in a very hot place. And if you missed that, you can go check that out on YouTube on your podcast feed. But now, David, it is your episode, your predictions. I have not seen your predictions. I have no idea where you're going to take us here. And I'm very excited to hear what you think is going to happen this season for the Miami Heat. So let's jump right in.
Yeah, I'd love to say that I could offer comparable heat to what you just brought there in the previous episode. But honestly, this team makes it really hard to make predictions. Like, it almost feels like every prediction is a bold one. Like, because there's so many different angles that this team could go in. It could go to be a really bad team. It could be a really good team, a surprisingly good team. There's so many different things they could do off the court as well, that it's just really tricky with this group. And also, I feel like I'm a little bit measured. You do like to bring those really hot takes sometimes. And so for me, it was not quite the same measure. On the Scoville rating, I'm probably not quite at a ghost pepper level or anything like that. So we'll see how it goes.
No, I think, and that might be the best way to separate sort of the thematically separate the two episodes, is we've got like increasingly bold takes on purpose in one episode, and then this is David's predictions, maybe more grounded in potential reality. So
I'm going to start us off with a really good one. I know Heat fans are going to be really excited to hear this one. I just think that because we've seen what this team is capable of, we've seen what Erik Spoelstra tends to do with his rotations. We tend to see that players will struggle with injury throughout the season. Terry Rozier is going to be a part of this rotation moving forward.
No. Okay.
Yeah.
When you say part of is that the full prediction?
No specific game amount. I think he's going to earn. I think he's going to be a regular player. Like I would say, if he stays healthy, etc., he'll play about 60, 65 games this year.
Is this a good prediction or a bad? Like, because you could look at it in one of two ways. You could, oh my God, the Heat are so desperate that they have no other choice but to play Terry Rozier, whether it's just they can't juice enough offense or there's too many injuries, and just Rozier's going to play 60 games, or Rozier just turns out like last year was a weird blip in the radar. Nobody really knows what happens, and he just returned to whatever last year was for him, capable of being this microwave scorer off the bench who can actually help this team. Which way are you kind of going with this?
Yes, that, and also we have no choice. I think it'll eventually be a combination of all these different things, where I think Terry's going to be better than he was last year, where the bar was set so incredibly low. It was subterraneous. Like, you couldn't really even see the bar. That's how bad he was. Like, he was the worst player by any kind of statistical measure whatsoever. And he can't be any worse. And I just think that the way that were talking about him during the off season, like we heard Udonis Haslem mention him in the same breath as I think following the acquisition of Norm Powell, he talked about Terry Rozier being there with Tyler Herro and Bam Adebayo. It's like, what? Why is he being lumped in together with the guys that you view as the cornerstones of your franchise moving forward? And I think we also heard from Erik Spoelstra in media day, like, the belief is that Terry Rozier is going to have a bounce back. And so I think they do believe in Terry. I think he's going to be better. And I also think that we're going to see guys like Davion probably get more minutes than he's accustomed to getting over the course of his career. And I think that he's also just signed a contract. So I'm not saying that he's going to take the foot off the gas or anything like that, but he might have an injury. Tyler's still going to be out for some time, and he might even re-aggravate that injury down the road. You're going to need somebody to step up. And we talked in the previous episode about Jaquez Jr and whether or not he is getting some significant minutes. Who knows? He's a rookie, and there's glaring warts to his game, even as he really does show incredible talent as a playmaker and passer. And you just might need Terry Rozier. God help me. You might just need Terry Rozier to come off the bench and provide some scoring. And I wouldn't in the least bit be surprised if he actually gets a start or two at some point during the season.
You are rubbing your temple for people not watching on YouTube even as you are saying it. Nobody blink twice if Terry Rozier is standing behind you. I don't understand.
I'm not being threatened in any way to make this prediction. No, I'm not getting paid by Terry Rozier either. No, the reality is I think this is how it's going to play out. I think last year, we're all screaming at the TV or in person, why are you playing Terry Rozier? And Spo's just like, Terry, calling his number. So it's I think that there's just a hope that he's going to provide something. And again, if he was playing as badly as he did last year and still getting an opportunity, hell, he's bound to get an opportunity now. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, there was so many injuries and depth concerns and everything post Jimmy Butler trade and everything that Rozier basically Rozier was out of the rotation and then had to be reinserted into the rotation because they were so beat up by the end of the thing. But you hope that that's not the case this year. Look, if you were to just sort of zoom out for a second and just look at NBA careers in general, and the way Rozier just did such a nosedive statistically last year, and just be like, is this just going to be who he is for now on, or do we chalk that up to some weird one-off season? More times than not, you'd expect him to at least start to climb back towards what he was the year prior. Understand? Players have weird one-off seasons. It happens. Is Rozier really going to be that bad? Where it literally just looked like in Space Jam where he got his powers zapped away. That's what it looked like. And I've just never seen anything like it in my entire life watching basketball. And so if you were to ask me, is it going to be more like that? Or can he get to 60% of what he was prior? I would actually bet, and I had to bet $1 on one of those two outcomes. I would bet my dollar on closer to what he was the year prior than Space Jam power zapped last year.
Yeah.
It was so bad. And it was so inexplicable and you know what? He did not look bad in the preseason in that game on Friday. Missed his first wide open three, and I was like, oh, here we go. Then he started getting to the basket, had a couple nice finishes, had a couple nice passes. I wouldn't rule it out. He is part of the roster. He's on the roster, and we do tend to forget it. That's a good prediction. What's the next one?
This is kind of a lukewarm take, I would say. I think Jaime Jaquez is going to have his bounce back. We've talked about this a number of times before, but I still think he winds up getting traded at some point throughout the season.
Jaime Jaquez Jr. gets traded this year, is your prediction?
Yes.
Wow. That's not lukewarm at all. That's pretty hot.
Is it? I just think...
Who's talking about that?
No, I just think he's going to provide a spark, and I think he's going to be one of those guys that people are going to ask about on a solid deal. And I know that the Heat are trying to save costs here and there, and while he's going to be solid overall, and I do think that's the case, I think enough teams are going to start digging around and saying, you know what, I believe that Jaime could be a player for us, or he could be a guy who can provide a spark for us. They might want somebody who's more of a young player also, but somebody who's mature and able to embrace a bigger role, especially for a contending team. So I could see him being moved this team. I think moved this year. I think he's I don't have any list of suitors or anything like that worked out.
Would it be for a roster upgrade? Would it just be like, hey, we can get a first round pick for Jaime and start to kind of recoup some of our draft assets? What's the deal for why would Miami do it?
You're gonna have to wait for my other predictions down the road.
Oh, okay. I love that as a tease. One reason I would not how do I phrase this the right way? Why there might be a non-zero chance of this happening is because Jaime Jaquez Jr. will be up for an extension next summer, right? He'll be going into the fourth and final year of his rookie contract. And if he has a bounce back year, the Heat will have to start thinking, we were just extended Nico. We have plans of extending Kel'el eventually. We may have plans of extending Tyler Herro. I mentioned a Norm Powell extension in my predictions. Maybe that's happening. We obviously have, I don't know if I said Bam already, but he's under contract for a lot of money. Andrew Wiggins as a player option. We got to really start thinking about, and we know that Miami's also planning for the summer of 2027. So whether do they have the finances for all of these things? Can they afford to give Jaime Jaquez Jr. a contract extension, especially if he's playing well, or they look at the deadline and you're right, maybe some team comes calling and say, hey, we can kind of use Jaime right now. You guys are just sort of like right in the middle of the pack in the Eastern Conference. We'll give you a first-round pick for Jaime. And if you're the Heat, you'd at least looking at, depending on the quality of that first-round pick, you'd have to think about it, right? And be like, well, we can kind of get out from under this extension conversation early, maximize Jaime's ability, and add a first-round pick to our cupboard here in case we want to make a trade deadline, which sounds like might be one of your next predictions. We'll talk about that maybe next. David's bold predictions continuing here after this.
Today's episode is brought to you by Built. Nobody likes paying rent, but if you must, well, you might as well get something for it, and that's where Built comes in. Built is changing the game by turning your rent payment into real rewards that you can actually use. When you pay rent through Built, you earn flexible points that can be redeemed towards hundreds of hotels and airlines, a future rent payment, your next Lyft ride, and more. But Built isn't just about rent. It's about rewarding you around your entire neighborhood. You'll love that with Built, your rent finally works for you. You're earning points every month on something you've already got to pay. It's already one of those expenses that you've got built into your budget. And guess what? Why don't you get a little reward for having to make that payment anyway? So turn your rent into rewards and start earning points around your neighborhood by going to joinbuilt.com/lockedonNBA. That's joinbuilt.com/lockedonNBA, and make sure to use that link so they know that we sent you. Today's episode is also brought to you by Skims. When I found out that Skims was making underwear for men, well, you know what? I was a little curious. I've heard so much about their quality from friends and family, and I just decided I had to give it a try. And let me tell you, it certainly lives up to the hype. I've always had issues with underwear, where it's fit, comfort, or maybe just finding the right style for me, and Skims has changed all that. Their men's line offers something for everyone, from boxer briefs to classic briefs, all designed with a perfect balance of comfort and style. I tried a Skims boxer brief, and I've got to say, I'm hooked. These are the perfect ones for my lifestyle. They move with me, they never lose their shape, and they stay in place all day. Whether I'm working out or just running errands, they're the most comfortable and reliable underwear I've ever owned. Plus, the lightweight material feels amazing, almost like you're wearing nothing at all. So shop Skims Men's at skims.com. Let them know we sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey and select our show in the drop-down menu that follows. That's skims.com. We'll be right back.
Thanks again for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. The best way to support the show is to hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Follow us on your favorite podcast app. David, next prediction.
Let's see where I want to take this one here. I teased it in the first segment. So I think the Heat are going to be better than people expect. We've talked about that. We're both in agreement. I think they're kind of just overlooking this roster, and they've discounted everything about him. So I'm going to start off my prediction with that. And yet, I still think that the Heat, and this is not an organization, despite what some fans might think, this is not an organization that likes to stand pat. They need to be making some kind of change. That's just the way they've always looked to the future. They don't want to be in that kind of mediocre state, even though they've been there before. There's no excuse this time around. As you said before, there's no carrot to dangle for this team. There's no hope that we can congeal. There's no Jimmy Butler to save us. They had their superstar before. They were looking to add another superstar to complement Jimmy. They know what this roster is. They're very honest in assessing this roster. That doesn't mean they don't like it, but they also expect more out of it. And so given all that, I think that they look at this and they realize this isn't sustainable. We're not going to win at the level that we expect to win with this current team. And I think there's going to be a surprising midseason trade, but it's not going to be for a superstar. I think it's going to be more about the move that sets up the move down the road, because I think that they're going to say, you know what, we're good enough, and what the hell, we might as well keep the bulk of this team together for a potential playoff run. We're good enough for that, but they're going to be clearing some space. And I think Jaime, as I said in the first segment, is part of that trade. And I wouldn't be surprised if there are some other names, bigger names that might be included in that as well, because this is about clearing some space so that you can make that move down the road to bring in that potential star.
So, first of all, I just need to call you out here. You were like, yeah, it's just going to be sort of lukewarm takes this entire episode. You come out of the gate with Terry Rozier is going to be a big part of the team. They're going to trade Jaime Jaquez Jr. and now they're going to make some sort of secret mystery trade that sets up some superstar deal. You're Trojan horsing increasingly hot Scoville takes into like these lukewarm Cholula bottles, and I'm just like, what's going on here? So what's exactly the prediction, David? I don't understand. They're trading Jaime and somebody who makes more money than Jaime. Are we talking about somebody in the $30 million plus range?
I think they moved Tyler. I do. Surprisingly enough, I think they moved Tyler.
So I thought about this in my bold predictions. If I was going to make the argument for trading Tyler Herro, maybe that's the best way to frame this. You just traded for Norm Powell. Is not as good as Tyler Herro, but does a lot of what Tyler Herro does in terms of shot making, offensive sort of microwave type scorer guy. And he's cheaper. And he's up for an extension now that you can handle now and get him for cheaper potentially than what you'd have to give Tyler Herro, where the deadline isn't until opening night, but nobody expects Tyler Herro to sign an extension between now and opening night. If there is a Tyler Herro extension, it's probably happening next summer. You just avoid that conversation altogether, the way the Clippers did with Norm Powell, and just say, you know what? We could trade Tyler Herro, maximize our value, get real stuff. Like Tyler Herro would not be a salary dump. You can get real stuff for Tyler Herro on the open market. I think there are teams that would love to have Tyler Herro. Houston would love to have Tyler Herro, for instance.
Yeah.
Mike, I'm just guessing. I'm not reporting. Like we could trade Tyler Herro and get real stuff for him, and then immediately turn around, sign Norm Powell to an extension so that we lock that position down for the next couple of years. Still have Bam, still have some good young players that we feel good about, Nico, Kel'el. And now, before the trade deadline, if we traded Jaime and traded Tyler for some real stuff, all of a sudden we have some real assets. That would be, if I were trying to make the case for trading Tyler Herro, that would be my case.
I think it's a good case. I really do. I think
I don't know if it is, for the record. I don't know that. I think
no.
also obvious negatives that come with it, but
I don't even think they should trade Tyler necessarily. Right. But I think if I'm looking at it through this lens, it's the concerns about the postseason performance and what his ultimate ceiling could be. And that, Norman does provide a lot of the same things as you pointed out. So that being the case, he's one of your best assets. You don't want to trade Bam, despite whatever anybody else might say, his most vocal critics. Bam, I don't think is going anywhere. I know Kendrick Perkins recently said that Bam's not going to last on this roster past this season. I don't see it. I just don't see the world where the Heat are really to trade
completely. Bam. If Kendrick Perkins said that, then start buying stock in Bam being in Miami for the long haul.
He's never going anywhere, basically. Yeah.
All right, start buying your Bam jerseys, guys. It's fine. Don't feel bad about it.
So that's why I just think that there's the possibility where they have to look at their roster much more honestly than they have in the past, and recognize it where everybody's ceiling is, and the floor is higher with Bam and everything else that he does. And so while you could get a lot more for Bam, obviously, I think you're not going to look to trade him. You're going to look to build around him as a complementary player, like what they did over the last few seasons, where they were like, we've got Jimmy and we've got Bam who can help out in so many ways. Let's add KD. Let's add Donovan Mitchell. Let's add Damian Lillard. So there were a lot of moves that they wanted to do with that kind of thought process in mind.
But they didn't have the assets to get it done, right? And so if you're able to, I'm just looking at Houston right now again. Could you get Fred VanVleet, who has a team option in that second year? You don't have to worry about it. Injured, but he's the salary filler coming back.
Right.
And Miami needs a 2027 first-round pick to unlock, because of step-in rules, a bunch of different trades that they can make. Houston has 2 picks in 2027 that they could potentially move. They've got the Phoenix unprotected one, which I doubt they would move. And then they have swap rights with Brooklyn. So maybe you can get that pick back. Or maybe they actually maybe they prefer to keep the Brooklyn swap and move the Phoenix pick. Whatever. You could potentially get one of those and Fred VanVleet for a Rockets team that, after having signed Kevin Durant or traded Kevin Durant and then signed him to an extension, they're in win now mode. And Herro would answer a lot of questions for that team. And if there's any team defensively that can cover up for Tyler Herro, it's Houston, right? Everybody gets by Tyler Herro. Cool. Who cares? They've got 100 7-footers right behind Tyler Herro waiting to corral that player that gets by. It does not matter for them. So you know, that's an example. I know Zach Lowe threw out maybe Minnesota recently in a podcast. Like that would be kind of interesting. So there are teams that I think could actually use Tyler Herro coming off of last year's All-Star year. And he should have a full recovery coming back from the surgery. I don't expect that to be an issue going forward. That's a good prediction, David. I like it. So you have 2 more predictions. Can you fit them all into the third segment?
I think I can.
Let's do that after this.
Today's episode is brought to you by Mint Mobile. If you're still overpaying for wireless, it's time to say yes to saying no. At Mint Mobile, their favorite word is no. No contracts, no monthly bills, no overages, no hidden fees, no BS. I said yes to making the switch and getting premium wireless for just $15 a month. Mint makes it simple. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can even bring your own phone and keep your same number and contacts. You'll love that you're getting the same quality service that you had before, but for a fraction of the price. Who doesn't like that? The setup is super easy. You can just keep your number and then you're running in minutes. Are you ready to say yes to saying no? Then make the switch at mintmobile.com/LockedOnNBA. That's mintmobile.com/LockedOnNBA. There's an upfront payment of $45 required, equivalent to $15 a month. Limited time new customer offer for first 3 months only. Speeds based slow above 35 gigabytes, unlimited plan, texts and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details. We'll be right back.
Last 2 predictions, David. Let's do it.
You know, you made a prediction in the previous episode about Kasparas Giacosionis getting some playing time, maybe even carving out some minutes as a potential starter, I believe. And
I did not say starter. I just said he was going to play more games than Drew Smith.
No, I think you said starter and all-star in his first season.
Only one way to find out. You got to listen to the episode, I guess.
Yeah.
What did I say?
So one of the things that you mentioned is that he's going to be able to get minutes over some of the other guards on this roster. And even though I made a prediction that Terry Rozier is going to get some playing time, my feeling is that Drew Smith, and this might be a really hot take just because of what we've seen in the past, will play over 60 games this season. That's one more of a prediction that I'd like to see happen more than anything else. I think he's.
I mean, look, the 2 injuries that ended his season's last 2 years, freak injuries.
Sure.
He's not fragile, right?
I think not.
He stepped in a weird spot off the court in Cleveland 2 years ago.
Terrible
and then he tore his Achilles last year and then came back in miraculous time. If anything, the guy's strong, right? Yeah. Like, and he keeps coming back, and it was the ACL. He comes back and has the best season of his career, best stretch of his career, and then injures his Achilles and then comes back in record time. It's like, this guy actually is pretty strong if you kind of consider things that way. And if he just avoids some freak injury, why wouldn't he play 60 games? You know? Like, he should be out there. And I do love the idea of Davion Mitchell and Drew Smith. Between the 2 of them, you just got 48 minutes of really reliable point of attack defense every single night, as long as those 2 guys are healthy.
I've got actually, I realized I got another prediction that I'm throwing in there as well. This one I'm going to come up with next. So I've got 2 more here.
Okay.
Davion Mitchell will shoot 40% from 3, and so will Norman Powell.
Is that 2 predictions or that's 1 prediction?
It's 1 prediction. Both of them are going to be 40% shooters for this team. I think.
So you're going to have 2 40% 3-point shooters, or are we also considering that Tyler Herro will shoot 40%?
I do not consider that Tyler's going to shoot 40%. He's going to be close, but I think just in sheer volume, he's going to be a little bit less. Norm's been a very underrated shooter, and you know, that's not how we view Davion, but he has been getting better. He's not going to shoot 45% the way he did last year on pretty solid volume. I think he's going to be closer to 40%. He's been growing in that regard. I think he's focused on that regard. I think he's going to be continuing to work his way towards being recognized as a really good defensive guard with some size limitations, but he can knock down the threes because the way that he shot the ball last year, I'm a believer in what he can do. And I think Norm Powell is going to be able to replicate what he has throughout his career.
I don't doubt your Norm Powell prediction. I think it's a really good one, especially the way that the Miami's been using him so far in the preseason as sort of that second guy on offense. Like, there's going to be a lot of catch and shoot opportunities for him. There's a lot of Norm Powell this year for Heat fans. It's going to be he gets the ball off of a pass on probably the second side, either shoots it or straight line drive to the basket. And that's going to be a lot and he's going to get a lot of points. Like we saw him in the preseason. He gets a lot of points that way. He's very effective, very efficient at that. It's his best utilization. Very excited to see what that looks like in Miami's offense when everybody's healthy. I think you're exactly right with Tyler Herro. We saw him over 40% for most of last season. And then when Jimmy got traded and everything was going on, they asked him to do a little bit more, a lot more, not just the high volume, the high degree of difficulty to his shots.
Yes.
And I think that's still going to be there, even with a full season of Davion, Drew Smith being back. Like the ball is going to be in Tyler's hands to create so much when he gets back that there is going to be just a high degree of difficulty on high volume. It's going to be really hard for him to shoot 40%. And then with Davion, it wouldn't shock me because Davion's got a little bit of a PJ Tucker thing going on where it's the percentages or whatever. Teams are still going to just leave him open.
Right.
And he's not going to be a floor spacer, but that's okay. The points still count, right? Like he's not spacing the floor for your offense, but he's still putting points on the board. So it's not quite as effective, but it's still effective. And if he's just hitting the open ones, that's all he needs to do. So I think it would not shock me if this prediction ended up being correct.
So it's not that hot then, I guess. But I still think it's
this is the Lucas warmest one you've had so far.
I'm going in reverse order here.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, increasingly lukewarm predictions. The next one. The Miami Heat will play basketball games this season. Okay.
He's read my notes. No, I think the 3-point shot is going to be so important for this team. I mean, again, that seems very obvious, but this group in particular just needs to be able to generate some points easily. And I think being able to rely on two guys that can shoot over 40% is going to be a huge thing for this team. And I think those are the two options that I think are most likely to reach that. I wonder if Nico's going to be able to come close, given what he did from the corner. Is he going to be able to reach those same levels that he has in the past? Is he going to get the playing time? Is he going to be healthy enough? And so, yeah, maybe I should have changed my Drew Smith prediction to Nico will play 60 games this season. But, that's a whole other show, I guess. So for my last prediction, again, I don't even know if this one fits into the lukewarm one or not. You and I are both optimistic about this group. And we both believe in the fact that they're being overlooked. And to a huge degree, I think Tyler is going to come back and he's going to be a very good player. I think Norm Powell is going to flourish here in Miami. I think Wiggs is going to be a factor. We know that Bam is going to be able to do what he does. And I think we'll see an increased level of aggression from him, where he is going to take the team and carry it to a higher degree than what we've seen from him in the past. So all that kind of leads to a team that, as you said before, is going to win close to 50 games. I think that's realistic. And yet, I think narratives are just so baked in at this point. As you said, the whole East is wide open thing, like that has been defining this. I basically since the Tatum and Halliburton injuries. At that point in time, it just became obvious that, this team, any team in the East could win it. But I think that they're more looking at teams like Detroit or Orlando that maybe had been bottom feeders in the past and have been slowly making ground and getting better and better. I think that they're viewed as those dark horse candidates. Could Orlando's defense be good enough to overtake Cleveland, who has many questions about this roster? Because we saw what happened after they shellacked the heck out of Miami. They went and got beat up pretty badly in the next round. The Knicks, again, a team that I believe can win a lot of games. They've made that run in the past, but injuries have been a problem. I'm not a believer in Mike Brown. I don't think he's going to juice this offense the way everybody's hoping and expects him to do. So I think there are questions in the East legitimately. And I don't know that any one team. I would have Cleveland as a favorite at this point in time, but once the playoffs start, I wouldn't be surprised if any team that makes the playoffs, including Miami. I could see them as emerging as an Eastern Conference finalist somehow, some way.
Is that your prediction? That's what this feels like you're going. Yeah.
That's not. No. I think it's more about the kind of storyline that's going to be attached to the Heat, kind of like that episode of Seinfeld that with a car that can't get rid of the body odor. I think it's just it's just you cannot erase the stink of what this team seems like it is or what it should be. And so I think you're going to have a number of players that are all-star worthy, and not a single one of them is going to make the all-star game.
Oh, okay. You swerved there at the end. All right.
Yep. And I know I'm contradicting. I'm contradicting what we said about Bam Adebayo in a previous episode, because I think both of us believe that he's going to have bounce back and that the all-star number is going to be there because the coaches respect what he does so much, and he's viewed in that way. He's not going to get the fan vote because nobody gives a damn about setting good, solid screens doesn't get you into the all-star game. So I don't think he's going to get the fan vote. So I think also the coaches are just not necessarily tired, but he's not the name that everybody's kind of buzzing about anymore. And so I wonder if he's going to make the All-Star game. I don't think he's going to make the All-Star game this season. I think Tyler's going to put up solid All-Star numbers. I think Norm Powell's going to put up All-Star numbers. Heck, I think even Kel'el Ware is going to emerge as a starter that's going to put up some pretty decent numbers as well. And all that's going to contribute to winning, but not necessarily the individual accolades. And I think that's going to help this team, and also because then it's kind of, you're playing for something bigger than just yourselves. I think it's in sharp contrast to what we saw last season.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is all about rebuilding your identity as a team that is greater than the sum of its parts.
I hear you. But if they're winning, like even a slightly above 500 record, and like we talked about in part one of this, that January-February slate is pretty soft. Like when voting is happening, the Heat could be playing their best basketball of the season to that point. If they're even winning, kind of, it's going to be really hard for them not to get an All-Star in the East. And that's more of a reflection on the East. You look at last year, Jason Tatum not going to be on it, right? So you got a spot vacated there. Darius Garland and Tyler Herro probably not going to be eligible because of injuries. Damian Lillard was on the All-Star team last year. He's out for the year, and he's in the Western Conference now. Tyrese Halliburton not going to be available. I think if you're looking at like for sure guys that as long as health permitting are going to be on the All-Star team, Jalen Brunson, Donovan Mitchell, Giannis, I think Karl Anthony Towns, Jaylen Brown, I think all those guys are for sure, as long as everything goes as expected, will be on the All-Star team. I would put Trae Young. I would put Cade Cunningham in that group too.
For sure.
That still leaves, like, what was that? 7 players that I just mentioned?
Yeah.
There's a lot of spots up for grabs. I think Mobley is probably a guy that you put on that. Siakam could definitely make a push if Indiana is just 500 or better. And there's a bunch of guys that we can go through. Like, I don't want to do the whole, like, will they or won't they make the All-Star? My point is, like, there's a lot of open spots. And if Bam's just doing great defense and scoring 19 points per game, coaches are going to put him on. So I think that Bam it's going to be really hard for Bam to almost not make it. We talked about Powell potentially. I don't know that he's going to make it, but I still think that Bam makes it. Was that your last prediction, by the way? Do we need to? It was okay. But at the same time, right? Like we've seen it before with the Heat in the past, where they don't get any All-Star guys. But I don't know. I think if this team is better than expected and playing well at the right time, that's where you start to get a little bit of buzz.
Yeah, but not as a team, not as great individual players. We see this all the time. Like, no, there's no star on this team. I think last year what helped Tyler more than anything is kind of like, well, hell, if you can withstand the Jimmy situation and put up those numbers, you kind of deserve it. And he did hit some big shots.
And the numbers were crazy. He hit some big shots. Like he was the guy that all of a sudden is like, well, we don't know if Jimmy Butler's going to be playing because he's constantly being suspended here. So we sort of have to game plan for this Tyler guy, and he was putting up big numbers. And then we saw people forget how off the charts his numbers were to start the year. I mean, he was shooting 40% plus from three on high volume, averaging 25 points per game, and to your point, carrying an offense where Jimmy was very wishy-washy.
Right. I just don't think there's that storyline that's going to help build buzz. I honestly, I think Jalen Duren.
You're talking more about like that's more of like an end of season All NBA type of thing for All Star. No. Literally, you hear this argument all the time. It's like we kind of got to get somebody from this team onto the All-Star team. You hear it all the time.
I think Duren's going to have a big year. I think Cade's going to be like all NBA kind of player. I think Duren's going to be a guy who gets All-Star consideration on a team.
Jared Allen's still hanging around. He could. I mean,
for sure.
Gets, a lot of his votes kind of get split between him and Mobley. But yeah.
If Garland's going to miss some time, I mean, I don't see why they don't want to get 2 All-Stars in for being a team that's going to flirt with 60 wins again. You know. So,
Miles Turner in Milwaukee, if he's unlocked with Giannis a little bit more, especially off last year's finals run, people feel pretty good about him. Yeah, I'm not saying it's impossible. I kind of think Miami gets one.
All right, we'll see.
We will see. All right, that's it for our 2-part bold / lukewarm, but actually secretly bold anyway predictions episode. You had my predictions in part 1. We just wrapped up David's predictions here in part 2. Let us know what you guys think in the YouTube comments. Which predictions were totally off base? Which ones do you see happening the most? Offer your own bold predictions for this season. We would love to hear them, but that'll do it for us today. Thank you so much for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Coming up later this week, we are going to be joined in a crossover episode with Locked On Magic host Philip Rossman-Reich to preview opening night for Wednesday in Orlando. And then that's coming out Wednesday morning. And then we'll have our recap of the first game of the season Wednesday night. Super excited about that. So the NBA season is here. We have post-game reaction pods coming your way. Thanks so much for making Locked On Heat every day. Make sure you hit that subscribe button.